A very hearty welcome to this presentation, Stability of Slopes. Stability of slopes is an important concept in the geotechnical engineering because any failure of the slopes would lead to catastrophic damage which would affect the life and property of general public and also on the infrastructure. So before getting into the nitty-gritties of this stability of slopes, first let me define what a slope is. A slope is defined as an exposed ground surface that stands at an angle with the horizontal. For example, this is the sloping surface. When the sloping surface is inclined at an angle beta with respect to horizontal, we call this as slope. The problem with the slopes is these slopes this is the sloping surface. They are inclined at an angle beta with respect to this horizontal. Now they have a tendency to undergo failure along some plane like this. The problem with this is when we analyze these slopes, if I consider an element, then the weight of this slide would be acting here, and then when I resolve the component of W along the perpendicular direction and also along the horizontal direction, I get a component in the horizontal direction which produces instability. So this, when this component is more, the slopes becomes unstable and then ultimately it would lead to failure. Now slopes are of two types. The slopes may be natural, which are there in the nature, and they could be man-made for a specific purpose. The man-made slopes are extensively used in highways. They are also used in railways, particularly for embankments, and also they are used in earthen dams and also in river draining works. Take a look at this picture. Now we see that the slope has failed as a block. There is a block slide across this. The reason for this is because of the tropical storm that produced extremely heavy rainfall, and that rainfall has caused this slope failure. Take a look at the second picture here. This is a very densely populated area and where slopes have failed. The reason for this is the sewage was directly discharged into the ground in the densely populated area, and also they found a leaking water pipe at the top of the landslide, resulting in massive failure of the slope. Take a look at this picture. Now there is a locality here in the bottom of this sloping ground. This is in California, and then there is this is a small seaside community, and then we find this slope failure here. Then take a look at this picture. A highway is running across this coastal line, and then we find the slope failure here, and leading to disruption of traffic, and highway gets damaged. The reasons for this was there was a firestorm which destroyed the vegetation. Subsequent to this, there was a rainstorm, and that generated debris that flows along the hill slopes, and then the slope have failed. Take a look at this picture. This is a landslide which took place in 1983. This was due to groundwater buildup from heavy rains during September month, and then also due to melting of deep snowpack. Take a look at this picture. This slope failure results from there was carbonate layers that lies beneath the ground surface, and then that carbonate layer dissolved. When it dissolved, it created a void in the bottom, and the top ground surface collapsed into the void. This is one picture, the natural slope has failed, and this is another picture where a man-made slope has failed, leading to damage of highways. The problem with slope failure is slope failure constitute a major geologic hazard because they are widespread. Slope failure pose serious threats to highways, lifelines, and structures that support fisheries, tourism, timber harvesting, mining and energy production, as well as it affects the general transportation. Slope failures commonly occur with other major natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, etc. Now, take a look at the data presented in this slide. The data is presented from 1916 to 1987. We find that in 1916 in Italy there was a landslide, the fatalities were 10,000. In 1920 in China there was an earthquake triggered landslide that caused fatalities of 2 lakh. In 1945 in Japan the fatalities were 1,200. In 1949 in USSR earthquake triggered landslide was there. The fatalities were somewhere between 12,000 to 20,000, the exact figures are not known. In 1954 Austria 200 people. In 1962 Peru 4,000 to 5,000. Italy in 1963 2,000. 1970 Peru again, earthquake related debris avalanches caused 70,000 fatalities. In 1985 in Colombia a mud flow was there due to volcanic eruption and fatalities were 23,000. In 1987 in Ecuador earthquake related landslide 1,000 fatalities are there. So this slide gives the details of the fatalities because of landslide and slope failure, but there are a number of cases around us where slopes have failed, causing damage to infrastructure facilities such as canals, railway embankments, highway embankments, like that. Yes. To sum up the causes of slope failure, we can list the following factors as the causes for failure. The first cause is gravitational forces. How does this gravitational forces cause the slope failure? I have written here the slope inclined at an angle beta with respect to horizontal. If I consider this element, I call this element as ABCD. Now, the weight of this element W acts downwards. Now, if I resolve this weight W into components parallel to this sloping surface and also perpendicular to that, if this is my W, this component is a tangential component, this component is a normal component. When the slope angle is beta is more, the angle, the disturbing force or the force T is more, and then as the weight is more, the T is also more, as beta is also more, T is also more. So this is the disturbing force or the force, this is the force which causes the slope to fail. So that is the effect of gravitational forces. Slope failure also results from intense rainfall. Intense rainfall causes slope failure. It softens the ground and then the slope fails. Not only intense rainfall, if the rainfall occurs over longer periods, that also causes slope failure. In addition to that, water level change, particularly rapid drawdown in case of earthen dams, causes slope failure. How is that happening? Let us say this is my earthen embankment. This is my water level. Now we know that the water pressure acts along this slope. It produces a stabilizing effect. The moment when water is lowered to this, then this zone gets saturated. This produces a drawdown effect. Now we see that the force T is there because of gravitational effect, and one more force because of water moving towards the water side, towards this side, also produces a disturbing force similar to this T, and then that induces failure. In addition to this, volcanic eruption also causes slope failure. Earthquake shaking also causes failure, and then human activity at the toe of the slope. If I am making any excavation here, if I make it, as a result of which I am increasing the slope angle, so which causes more gravitational forces, and the slope has a tendency to fail. Yes. In addition to this, erosion due to wind and water also causes slope failure, and the another cause is external loads placed on the crust of the slope that would add to gravitational forces. The reason is this: if I add some gravitational forces, if I build a highway here, vehicle traffic would come which would produce external loading. This external loading would add to this gravitational forces, produces sliding of these slopes gets accelerated. Yes, slope stability. There are two terms which we commonly use. They are the landslide and slope failures. Let us have a distinction between them. What is a landslide and what is a slope failure? Landslide is a general term for any perceptible downslope movement of rock or soil. When it moves, it can bring bedrock, soil, or a mixture of these. And landslide is generally classified according to the mechanisms responsible for the movement and the velocity of the movement. Slope failures. These are sudden failures of the slope resulting in transport of debris downhill by these mechanisms, by slumping, by rolling, by falling, and also by sliding. Now, slope failures takes place over a small geographical area, and landslides takes place over a large geographical area. So, let us look at this slide. In this slide, what we are trying to do in this case is, we are trying to heap a layer of sand, we are trying to build a heap of sand in this fashion. Now, we find as we pile up this sand, we find that the sand slope is stable, slope is stable, the slope angle is, if I call this as beta, the stable slope angle corresponds to the angle of internal friction of the soil, which is a fundamental soil property. How does, if you look at the internal structure, the grains gets packed in this form. So, there develops a frictional contact between particle to particle. The stability basically arises because of the frictional contact at the grain scale level. Now, the slope is stable. The stable angle of the slope corresponds to the angle of internal friction of the soil. Next, what happens when water is added to such a sand? When we add a small quantity of water, if you make the sand too wet, then there develops what is known as there develops across the surface of the sand particles, surface tension forces develop. When surface tension forces develop, we know the shear strength of the soil increases. As a result of surface tension, shear strength increases, and then the grains hold in place, and then you see that the angle of repose keeps increasing. It increases when compared to that of a dry sand. So, in case of wet sands, the angle of repose is more than the angle of internal friction. Take a look at the next slide. When it is wet, yes, the angle of repose is more, and we can build stable slopes beyond the friction angle. What happens when the sand becomes saturated? When the sand becomes saturated, the strength may be reduced to a very small values, and the sand heap tends to flow. So, that means water in excess would cause the slope to fail, and then the angle of repose is less than that in the case of dry sand. This aspect I am going to take up in detail. Now, slopes fail by different modes. The various modes of slope failure are: the slopes generally fail by sliding, they also fail by falls, they fail by in the form of flows, they also fail in the form of creep. When I say the failure mode is through slides, it could be rotational slides or it could be translational slides. I am going to show you some pictures about these rotational slides and also translational slides to make you understand what these rotational slides and translational slides are really. falls. The slope may fall. That means the vertical moment is greater than the horizontal moment and the failure is extremely fast. Then the failure mode could be through flows. Flows means the moving mass is broken up, has lost its internal structure, the mass resembles that of a viscous liquid fluid, and then the movement is extremely fast. The another mode of failure is through creep failure mode. This is extremely slow movement. Take a look at this picture. This indicates rotational slides. The original slope was like this, and then when the slope fails, the failure surface is this. This is a circular rotational slide. Next one. This is a non-circular slide. The original slope was like this. Then when the slope fails, it fails. This is the failure surface of the slope, and we find that there is a subsidence from the top surface, and then there is a non-circular rotational slide. Next. Slopes also fail by slumping. Now you see that it fails. This is the failure zone. Failure surface is this. It is through rotation again. Then there is a slump block. Then there is a mud flow in the bottom, and one field case where the rotational slides have taken place by slumping is shown in this slide. And slopes also fail by translational slides. This translational slides occurs when there are discontinuities and variations in shear strength between layers of bedded deposits, or by the contact between the firm bedrock and overlying soil mass if it is there, and if there are any weak discontinuities as seen in this, so that leads to translational movement, and the failure mode is through translational slides. So this picture shows the translational slides in an actual field case. This also is a translational slide, and this picture also shows the translational slide in a practical case where the slope has failed. Now you see another type of slope failure is rock falls or topples. Now you find that this is something like an overhanging cliff, and then rock falls takes place here. So this picture shows the rock fall blocking the highway here, and then this is a seaside, and then we also find this is an overhanging cliff, and then the cliff has failed, leading to rock falls. Creep. This is another mode of failure. This is a slow mass movement of soil down the hill, primarily under the influence of gravity, but it is also aided by saturation with water. Now you see that the poles which were vertical, they are inclined. This is because of the creep mass moment of the soil. Now coming back to our discussion, what are we main civil engineers are expected to? We are expected to do two things. We are expected to check the safety of natural slopes. We are expected to check the safety of slopes of excavations, particularly those of man-made. Yes. I will be taking 4 to 5 sessions to cover this chapter. During this, we will discuss some simple methods of slope stability analysis, from which you will be able to estimate the stability of slopes with simple geometry and geological features. You will be able to understand the forces and activities that provoke slope failures. This is a learning objective for this chapter. In doing so, I will be using two things in this chapter, that is the concept of shear strength of soils . This is one thing which I use. The second thing is effective stresses and seepage. These are the two things. The knowledge of shear strength of soils I will be using, and also I will be using the knowledge of effective stresses and seepage, which you have learnt in your previous semester. Shear strength of soils means I will be using this Mohr Coulomb strength criteria. What is this? graphical representation I will do on a tau and sigma plot. This is the Mohr-Coulomb line. This is the cohesion C, and this is the angle of internal friction phi. If it is a C phi soil, I will be using both C and phi. If it is only a cohesion less soil, I will have only phi here. This is for sands, cohesion less soils. This is for C phi soils. This is for only phi soils. And if the soil is purely cohesive, then I will have this failure strength envelope. So where my shear strength tau F will be equal to C. This knowledge I will be using. Tau F equals sigma times tan phi. Tan phi. So this is tau F equals C plus sigma times tan phi. This knowledge of shear strength, if it is a cohesionless soil, my tau F equals sigma times tan phi. If it is a cohesive, pure cohesive soil, my tau F equals pure cohesion C. And if it is a C phi soil, my shear strength is given by C plus sigma tan phi. These three concepts I will be using in this chapter. That's number one. I will also be using the concept of effective stresses and seepage. This you know, effective stress, the total stress sigma is summation of sigma dash plus u, where this is the total stress, the sigma dash is the effective stress, u is the pore water pressure. Now, when I have a ground surface like this at some depth set, now if I know the gamma unit weight, my total stress sigma is nothing but gamma times z. My effective stress, if this layer is saturated, completely saturated, then the unit weight is gamma dash, then my sigma dash is gamma dash z. That's number one. Then if water table is at the ground surface, if I were to put a piezometer here, water would rise up to this height. This is the height to which water would rise, Z. Then I can compute my pore water pressure as gamma W times Z. Knowing total stress gamma Z, knowing pore water pressure gamma W into Z, I am in a position to calculate sigma dash. This also I am using. In addition to this, I will be using the concept of seepage analysis. What is this? You know that when seepage takes place in the direction in which seepage water is moving, it exerts a force called seepage force. It exerts a force called seepage force. That seepage force I will be using in this slope stability analysis. These are the learning objectives, and what I use to accomplish this is shear strength of soils, and the concept of effective stresses and seepage will be used. Definition of some key terms. This is the sloping surface, this is the slope angle beta, and this is the failure surface, and the slope is failing downwards like this. This is the sliding mass, this entire thing, bounded by the sloping face and the failure zone, and the failure zone, in this case I have shown it as a non-circular slip surface. Next. Now, in stability of slopes, we need to carry out stability analysis of slopes. Stability analysis means so let us say I have a slope like this. Now let us say this slope has failed like this. This is sloping surface, this is the failure surface, this is the sliding mass, it is coming like this. Now stability analysis consists of 4 stages. The first stage is determination of the potential failure zone, failure surface. This we need to find out failure surface. I don't know which is my failure surface. I have to do this through trial and error basis, find out this failure surface, first step. Second thing, now this slope is tending to slide in this direction. Now find out the forces that cause slip. Find out determine all the forces that cause failure of these slopes. Then there will be some forces within the soil mass which try to restore, which try to prevent these forces. Determine all the forces that tend to restore the slope. Then, having known the forces that tend to cause the slope failure, having known all the forces that tend to prevent or restore the slope failure, we need to estimate the margin of safety. This is the whole story behind this. Determine the potential failure surface. Determine all the forces that tend to cause the slope to fail. Determine all the forces that tend to restore the slope. Having known these things, estimate the safety margin, are also called as factor of safety for a particular slope. Now, let me introduce to you the concept of factor of safety, FS. The factor of safety is defined as the ratio of restoring force to disturbing force. This is one way of defining factor of safety. I can also define this factor of safety as the ratio of the average shear strength available to F to the developed shear stress to D. It can be defined as a ratio of the average shear strength to F to the average shear stress developed within the slope. Now, factor of safety, I have written this as the average shear strength available to average shear stress developed. This average shear stress developed, average shear strength available to F is C plus sigma tan phi, where C is the cohesion, sigma is the normal stress, phi is the angle of internal friction. C and phi are soil properties. The developed shear stress can be written as CD plus sigma times tan phi d. Now, factor of safety can be defined as C plus sigma tan phi divided by CD plus sigma times tan phi d. Now, there are two terms. The first term is a cohesive term, the second term is a friction term. Here also the mobilized cohesion term, the mobilized friction term. Now, this factor of safety can be further split into factor of safety with respect to cohesion, which is simply the ratio of C over CD, and the factor of safety with respect to friction F of phi, which is nothing but the ratio of tan phi divided by tan phi d. Tan phi d. I have a factor of safety with respect to cohesion. I also have a factor of safety with respect to friction. When Fc equals F of phi, then that gives the factor of safety with respect to strength. That gives factor of safety with respect to strength. Now, when my factor of safety tends to 1, then I say the slope is on the verge of failure. The slope is on the verge of failure. So, factor of safety we need to calculate. Try to see that factor of safety is greater than 1. When factor of safety is close to 1, then there is a tendency for slope to fail. Yes, slopes are broadly classified into two types. The first type is infinite slopes and the second one is finite slopes. This is largely related to the extent of the sloping portion. Infinite slopes are very large in extent. They are formed due to geological process, due to geological factors, they are there. Finite slopes are man-made slopes for a particular purpose. Now we are going to study the stability analysis of infinite slopes and also stability analysis of finite slopes. Now, as I told you, infinite slopes have dimensions that extend over great distances and the soil mass is inclined to the horizontal at an angle beta as shown here. This is a sloping surface. And in case of infinite slopes, the failure surface or sliding surface is always parallel to the upper surface, sloping surface. This is the sliding surface. This is always parallel to the sliding surface. This is number one. The weight W always acts in the downward direction if you consider an element. I will come to that a little later. Now, if the infinite slope has different stratas, we assume that those stratas are also inclined and they are parallel to the top surface. This is the top surface. If it is stratified, the different strata are also parallel to this, like this. And then if a stratified infinite slope, when it fails, the failure plane is also assumed to be parallel to this sloping surface. That's the assumption which we make. Yes. Now, when I was discussing about this Mohr-Coulomb strength criteria, there are three cases. The soil could be cohesionless. It could be purely cohesive soil. It could be cohesive frictional soils. It could be Phi soils. It could be C soils. It could be C5 soils. And in infinite slopes, we will consider the stability analysis of all these three cases. We consider stability analysis of purely cohesionless soil. We consider stability analysis of purely cohesive soils. We also consider stability analysis of purely cohesive frictional soil. Now, let me first take up the stability analysis of infinite slopes in a cohesionless soil. Now, I will consider this infinite slope to be like this. This is having a very large extent, like this. Now, I will assume that this is inclined at an angle beta with respect to horizontal, like this. Then I will assume my sloping surface will be parallel with my failure surface will be parallel with the sloping surface. This is my sloping surface. This is my failure surface. Now, this is stability analysis in case of cohesionless soil. Cohesionless soils. That means C is 0 and phi is, there is some value. Soil has angle of internal friction, but cohesion is 0. Now, to consider the stability analysis, what I do in this case is, I will consider an element between the sloping surface and the failure surface. Let us consider a small element ABCD. ABCD. Let the length of this be, inclined length be L. Let the horizontal length of this element capital A, B, capital C, capital D. Let this be small b. Now, this element ABCD is considered. This is the soil wedge. The weight of this wedge always acts in the downward direction. That is W. Now, when the weight is acting in the downward direction, I can resolve this weight W into two components. One which is perpendicular to this sloping surface, to the failure surface, and the one which is parallel to the sliding surface. Now, if you consider the triangle of forces, this is the weight W. Resolve this into a component which is parallel to this failure surface in this direction, and then another component which is normal to this
failure surface. Let me call this by N. Let me call this by T. The component N always acts along this direction. It produces a restoring effect on the slope. But as far as this force T is concerned, this is parallel to this failure surface. This has a tendency to cause this slope to slide down. If this exceeds its limiting value, then slopes fail. So N and T. If this angle is beta, this angle is also beta, then I can resolve, I have resolved this W into N and T components. Now, my normal component N is nothing but W times cos beta, and my tangential component T can be written as W times sin beta. W times cos beta and W times sin beta. Now, now I told factor of safety, I have defined this as the ratio of the shear strength available to the developed shear stress across the potential failure plane is the ratio of tau F by tau D. So let us find out what is tau F for this case, what is the developed shear stress across this potential failure, then find out the factor of safety. Now tau F. To find the tau F, this is a cohesionless soil, C is 0, only phi is there. Now tau F can be written as C plus sigma times tan phi. C is 0, so therefore my tau F will be equal to sigma times tan phi. Then how about sigma? Sigma is the normal stress. That is nothing but the component N divided by the inclined length is L, perpendicular to the plane of the board is unit dimension, N divided by L into 1. This is my sigma. Now my tau F can be written as N divided by L into 1 into tan phi. But N is written as W times cos beta, we can substitute that. W times cos beta divided by L into 1 into tan phi. That is my tau F. Now, I need this term tau D to calculate the factor of safety for cohesionless soil deposit, tau D. The developed shear stress is as a result of this tangential component T. Now tau D is simply given by the ratio of this sliding force T divided by the area across which this force is acting, that is T divided by L into 1 gives tau D. Now let me find out that. My tau D is T divided by L into 1. What is T? We have resolved W times sin beta. So substitute that. W times sin beta divided by L into 1. So now I know tau D is known, W times sin beta divided by L into 1. I also know tau F. Tau F is given by W times cos beta tan phi L into 1. Both terms are known. This ratio can be worked out. Now factor of safety now is tau F by tau D. This is given by tau F. W cos beta tan phi divided by W times sin beta. I can write this because L into 1 and L into 1 gets cancelled. So W gets cancelled. This can be written as tan phi divided by tan beta. So in case of cohesionless soil, the factor of safety is given by the ratio of tan phi by tan beta. Tan phi by tan beta. Under limiting condition, when the slope fails, my factor of safety would be 1. Factor of safety would be 1. When Fs is 1, then tan beta will be equal to tan phi. This is under the limiting condition, which tells beta equals phi. So come back and let us take a look at this picture which I showed you earlier. Maybe I have here. Yes, I have said the slope angle beta would be equal to phi. So we find that the slope is stable as long as the slope angle beta is less than or equal to phi, the factor of safety is more than 1 and the slope is stable. The moment when beta becomes equal to phi, the angle of internal friction, it is on the verge of failure and it can fail, slope can fail. Always we require a factor of safety. Try to keep the slope angle beta always less than phi. Phi, if phi is 30 degrees or 35 degrees, 30 to 35 degrees for a cohesionless soil, keep beta always less than this value, and if you require a factor of safety of 1.5, keep the slope angle around 20 to 22.5 or 23 degrees, my slope is stable. Now, the same thing when I put in the in this normal stress versus shear stress versus normal stress plot, let me use this space. For a cohesionless soil, my Mohr Coulomb envelope would go like that. This is my tau, this is my sigma plot. This is tau f equals sigma times tan phi. Tan phi, this angle is phi. As long as my slope angle beta is less than phi, slope is stable. Slope is stable. As the beta angle keeps increasing and when it is close to phi, I go to the limiting condition where the factor of safety is close to 1. The moment we touch beta equals phi, we are on the verge of failure, and no slope can exist at an angle beta greater than phi. That is ruled out. Okay, now the story here is factor of safety in this case is tan phi by tan beta in case of infinite slopes in a cohesionless soil. Under critical conditions, when factor of safety is 1, tan beta equals tan phi, you can have a maximum slope equal to angle of internal friction and slightly less than this angle of internal friction, otherwise slope is going to fail. Next case. Now this is the stability of infinite slopes in cohesionless soils analyzed for gravitational forces. When we have seepage in this slope, the effect of seepage. What happens now? Now, this is my failure surface, let us say. I will consider the same element ABCD for gravitational analysis, gravitational force analysis. The weight W acts in the downward direction. This will have two components as we discussed earlier. This component is T, this component is N. This we know, this is W. Now we know that when there is seepage here, I will designate this W by W dash, T by T dash, N by N dash. Now, my N dash is nothing but W dash times cos beta. T dash can be written as W dash times sin beta. Sin beta. Now, in the earlier case, the force that was causing slope to fail was this T component. When there is a seepage, the seepage would always be in the direction of the slope only. It is like this. When the seepage is in this downward direction along the slope, now we know from the seepage analysis, whenever there is a seepage water moving in any direction, it exerts a force in the direction of its movement. This is fundamental thing. Now, there develops a seepage force Js in the direction of slope. Now, my driving forces or the destabilizing forces are, in addition to this T, the Js also has to be taken into account, the seepage force. Now, the seepage force Js can be written as I times gamma W into B into Z. I is the hydraulic gradient. Because this is inclined at an angle beta, Js seepage force can be written as gamma W Bz. I can be written as sine beta only. Gamma W B into Z into sine beta. Now, we know the normal component n dash is W dash cos beta, T dash is W dash sine beta. How to calculate this W dash? W dash, this is saturated soil mass, therefore W dash can be written as gamma dash B times Z sine beta. Similarly here n dash is gamma dash B times Z cos beta. Now, the driving force, now this is cohesionless soil deposit but with seepage effect. My tau f, the general expression is C plus sigma tan phi. C is 0. This is sigma tan phi only. Tau f is sigma tan phi. Sigma equals n dash divided by L into 1. N dash divided by L into 1. But n dash is gamma dash Bz cos beta. So this is gamma dash B times Z cos beta divided by L into 1. This is my sigma. Okay. My tau f now takes this form gamma dash B times Z cos beta. This is the sigma component multiplied by tan phi divided by L into 1. That's tau f. Next, tau d. Tau d is nothing but the driving forces along the slope are T dash and Js. I would put the total driving force as T, which is summation of T dash plus Js. T dash we know gamma dash Bz sine beta. How about Js? Js is also known. Js equals gamma W Bz sine beta. So this can be simplified as gamma dash plus gamma W Bz sine beta. This can be written as gamma saturated B times Z sine beta. When I have this tau d, that is nothing but T divided by L into 1. So that is gamma sat Bz sine beta divided by L into 1. What is my factor of safety? Factor of safety is the ratio of tau f divided by tau d. Let us find out that. Factor of safety is tau f divided by tau d. This simplifies to L into 1 and L into 1 are common. I leave out those terms. Now it is, this simplifies to gamma dash over gamma saturated, because Bz and Bz also gets cancelled here. Then I have cos by sine ratio. This simplifies to tan phi by tan beta. Now, the ratio of gamma dash or gamma saturated can be approximately taken as of times tan phi over tan beta. This is factor of safety. Now, under limiting condition, when tau f is exactly equal to tau d, my factor of safety would be 1. In that case, tan beta, now that will be equal to half of tan phi. This is an important conclusion. In the earlier case, we said that the slope angle beta can be equal to the angle of internal friction at the maximum in case of dry cohesionless soils. The moment when there is a seepage water, seepage taking place through the same slope, my slope angle, the stable angle beta, reduces to half of the earlier case. The story here is, if this is the phi, dry soil, I can have my slope angle anywhere less than phi. But if there is seepage, then the limiting friction angle beta should be less than half of phi. Should be less than half of phi. The stability reduces to a great extent because of seepage forces, and then I cannot keep my slope steep. So that is the effect of seepage. So the some conclusion for today's class is, in case of infinite slopes and dry cohesionless soil, the slope angle beta could be at the maximum equal to phi and should always be less than phi. Then whenever there is a seepage taking place through this infinite slopes in a dry cohesionless soils, this factor of safety, the slope angle would be half of phi preferably for stable slope. It should be less than that. So that's the story. If you have any questions, I'm willing to take it, and I will continue in my next class from here onwards. Any questions? Welcome. Right. Thank you.